Welcome to the Blackbaud Ninja channel. Today I'm going to talk you through how to import amendments to recurring gifts so that you can automate them in NXT if they're not already eligible for automation. So the first thing you should do is create a query of your active recurring gifts. So here's a sample that I put together. You want to select your campaigns that may have had recurring gifts created in them. If you haven't been amending the campaign as you go along, then you're going to want to go back a couple of years to make sure that you're getting all active recurring gifts. And you might also just want to select gift installments ending on blank. These would be recurring gifts that will go until they are stopped. If they have an end date, then you may not need to automate them quite yet. The other thing that you might want to do is include a statement where you're selecting the gift next transaction due date only on a couple of days. So that way you're looking at a smaller group and you can test things out before you go too far. So save your query and export the output so that you can review it. Here is some suggested output for review. It just gives you a lot of the different pieces of information on a recurring gift record. One of the things I want to point out is you may want to include the gift payment type so that you know if you're dealing with a credit card gift or a direct debit gift. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. So once you have your query, go to Database View, go to Administration, Import, Gift, Amendment, and create a new import. What we're going to be doing is creating a new import. You're going to include the query that you just created previously, and you're going to be creating a file. So you may want to just specify the output from the export of the query that you created earlier. If you didn't download a file earlier, what you can do is just create a blank CSV file in your downloads folder and select that. What we're doing is we're extracting some information and we're going to overwrite that file and edit it before we put the information back in. So back in your import, this is the file layout tab. There's really nothing there, just showing you what it looks like. And then the information you want to extract is going to be specified on the Fields tab. Gift import ID and gift link are required fields, so they will automatically populate. And then you should add constituent ID, start date, date, and numeric day. Numeric day is the day of the month that the gift is going to recur. So go to your summary screen, make sure that you have selected Create Control Report, and then click Create Now. It will ask you if you want to overwrite your file, and you go ahead and say yes. When it's done, it will tell you that the import is complete and how many records were processed. Here's a sample of the control report, again, seeing your 177 records processed. And this is the file that you used. So now just save and export the import and open the file that you just extracted. Here's what it may look like. So this is the import ID of the recurring gift, the link that is necessary, constituent ID. This is what the installment start date reads as now. This was the last amendment date, and this is the day of the month that the gift is supposed to be processed. So you see here I have one on the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. But as you see, the installment start dates do not match up. So these gifts would not have been eligible for automatic conversion. So we need to amend these recurring gifts. Okay, we're going to edit three things in that file now. The first one is changing the installment start date so that it shows the next available day that you want this to process. That's why you exported the RGA inst num day, so that you can see the day of the month that this should process. Then you're going to change the RGA date to today. And I just want to note, if you're amending credit card gifts and direct debit gifts separately, you can make the RGA date match the next transaction date for credit cards, but you can't future date a direct debit gift. So in that case, you must use today's date. The third thing is a little scary for me. You've extracted the import ID that's associated with a master recurring gift record. What we're trying to do here is create a new amendment, so it's going to need its own import ID. And so we're going to have to create that. One suggestion is to just use today's date with a number appended to it. So you'll see here in another column, I had put in today's date with a dash, and then I had the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And then I just use a quick little formula to combine this column H with this column I, so H2 and I2, and I filled down, and then I copied and pasted special the values into the import ID field. Here's what it looks like after editing. So you see the date -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that is the new import ID. And I changed the installment start date. In this case, I changed it so that it would match the installment day. So I put 7/14, 7/15, 7/16, 17, and 18. And I just left the RGA amendment date as the day that I was making the change. So now we're going to import that edited file back into Razor's Edge. So go back to that import that you saved earlier. And now, instead of creating an import file, we're going to import new records. You should check validate data only, just so that you can check to see if there are any errors. Specify that file that you just edited. And then the next step, we're going to go to the file layout. Now it's showing you, here's what the file looks like, your import ID, the link, constituent ID, the installment start date, and the numeric day that the gift will be processed. Ideally, I would like to import a note indicating why the gift is being amended, but it's just not one of the import field options. So these are the fields that are going to be imported back into Razor's Edge. Finally, on the Summary tab, I suggest that you create an exception file. That way, if things don't all import, you know which records didn't go in, and then you can go back, edit that, and then try it again. And again, always try to create a control report because it gives you valuable information. So I had 94 records in that file, 74 of them imported, but I had 20 exceptions. So now I have an exception file that I can work from once I figure out what the problem was. But I already know what it was. I hadn't done my credit card gifts and my direct debit gifts separately. And because I was trying to make the start date match the next installment date, you can't save a post-dated amendment for a direct debit gift. So those 20 direct debit gifts failed, and I'm going to have to go back and do them separately using today's date, not a future date. Now, you have amended the information on all of these records, so hopefully it's eligible for import now. So you could convert all of these things in bulk. In NXT, go to Settings, Control Panel, and Gift Management. But you could only do this if you have a single BBMS account, and here's why. When you get to that point, it asks you to select a payment configuration. And If all of the gifts are not being processed by the same BBMS account, you can't do it automatically. So what we're going to have to do is, even though we were able to update the amendments via import, we're still going to have to go through and manually convert the gifts. So if you pull up your query in NXT again, what you can do is you can go and you can open up a record right from the query here. And you see now that instead of the orange banner that says it's not eligible, you see that you can now convert to a recurring gift. You can just click that and then click the next button, and it will take you to the next record. So you'll see kind of in the background here that I have the same constituent ID show up multiple times. That's because there were previous amendments on that record. But when you click next, it's going to hop to the next record and then the next record. It's not going to make you go through all of those individual same constituent records. So you have clicked convert to automated recurring gift, and you have to select the account that you want to process those gifts with. So once you've done that, you should be set. But here's a little post-conversion heads up. Once your recurring gifts start processing automatically in NXT, you might get exception errors in your batch if you have custom fields like fundraiser populated on your original recurring gift. You'll get an error, an exception error in your batch. It'll say something possibly like this. What you need to do is go back to the original recurring gift record in database view to change and update that field. And then once you've done that, you should be able to go back to the batch in NXT and finalize and approve the batch. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed this, and come back and visit us on the Blackbaud Ninja channel again sometime.